Sannin and his successor Sasuke's place to demonstrate how underrated the Sannin remain even at higher points in the series. And well, as a follow-up to that, I figured why not place Jiraiya in Sasuke's position to see if he would do better or worse than Orochimaru. So yeah, this video is a follow-up video to that, and I guess Sage Naruto vs the Kage Summit as well, so some points particularly from the Orochimaru rendition will be repeated here if necessary, such as when discussing the overall caliber of the Sannin, which I suppose we could begin with, as well as encompassing Jiraiya's lore to see the power ground he enters the fight at. And like Orochimaru, he does enter on some solid footing, seeing as he is quite relative to Orochimaru, despite a common consensus being that Orochimaru is vastly superior, which just isn't the case. Even when Hiruzen is unconfident in the idea of anybody in Konoha being able to beat Orochimaru in a fight, Ebisu, Hiruzen's assistant, notes how Jiraiya being there, he probably could be a match for Orochimaru, seeing as it takes a Sannin to fight another Sannin according to him, which is something the first data book would also corroborate by stating that Jiraiya is a powerful shinobi on par with Orochimaru. Basically meaning that they are strong matches for one another, which, well, is something Pain doesn't seem to disagree with as well, as he does compare the two, stating, well, whether it's Jiraiya or Orochimaru, each of the prodigal three have unique powers. Again, implying there's, some way that the two are very much similar in power level, capable of giving the other a very tough blow.
I'll say this real quick. So far he's doing a good job, but yeah, it's without a doubt the sounding really fucking powerful. Jiraiya and Orochimaru blatantly have scaling to one another. They fought when they were younger. Orochimaru did win, but again, it's not like Orochimaru is like fucking leagues beyond this dude. So yeah, that's blatantly a fact. Data book statements, manga statements, anime, and then the feats, right? So they're all in a pretty similar range of power. But
battle. However, even with this, many might point to Orochimaru edging him out in things like ninjutsu through their encounter in the three-way deadlock, stating how it's no contest between them and who's stronger, or that Jiraiya is simply outmatched, which might be fine, but I would like to note that it's still that they are of a caliber similar enough to give one another a close fight, which is what's important. Orochimaru, when not being so boastful, pushes this idea in some sense through him implying that Jiraiya's sealing jutsu is on par with both Hiruzen's and his own. This may hold more validity when accounting for Jiraiya's data book, how he notes how he wants to fight Hiruzen, implying that he's actually confident in winning, or at least, performing well in such a high-level battle, like the one with Orochimaru, which was implied to be, by the, bystanding Anbu to be like a Hokage-level battle, implying that Hiruzen is still living up to his reputation as the strongest of the 5 principal territories, as stated by Kabuto, which does get supported 3 other times in the fan book. One that's actually
correction.
That
now, dude made that statement. Not Okage, mid-Kage. Okay? Because Guy or... Well, Guy technically is an exception, but you get what I'm saying when I say Guy. Guy and Kakashi, they get fucked up. They were low Kage motherfuckers, but they ain't pulling shit like that.
Hiruzen is at the peak, of the shinobi world and whatnot through like his masterful ninjutsu, whereas the other two kind of just imply that like the Okage tier is the strongest of the village, or of all the villages, I guess, likely on the basis of Hiruzen's power, which is, a power likely not out of Jiraiya's range, seeing as, well, he's not only implied to be a match for, Orochimaru and Hiruzen, but also he was chosen to replace Hiruzen and take the mantle as Hokage, the strongest leader, twice over Kakashi, Konoha's strongest jonin, as stated in both the first fanbook and first data book. And while yes, the gap in missions being nearly 700 and experience at large do play a role, it's not likely a role greater than the power gap, seen as Orochimaru's terrifying Kakashi so bad that Kakashi could only picture his head being sliced off, where he would then, preemptively activate his Raikage prior to revealing the Sharingan, showing just how disturbed he actually was. The Naruto Storm Generations game has a cutscene showing base Jiraiya beating up Rasen, Shirk, and Naruto following the Kakuzu fight without even getting a scratch on him. And well, seeing as Kakashi seemed to believe that Naruto was a match for him, this could kind of supplement that more if you do take the games as authoritative. You could also...
You know what I realized? They always say without a scratch, but that's not what they show at the skin. They just say he was unable to defeat Jiraiya. Like... I don't know if you caught that. This doesn't really, like, I don't know, it doesn't fully matter, but yeah, but I'm like, bro, like, well, what are you talking about without a scratch? Can you show that? Like, what? Because I'm gonna say this, fucking Ryzen Shuriken, Jiraiya's not beating that. Like, maybe a Sage Mode Rising on. That's a maybe, bro, but Ryzen Shuriken's a big fucking deal. Now, obviously, if Jiraiya's not being stupid, you know, and he's doing whatever, then he'll win for many, many other reasons, right? But I'm just saying, like, if he was trying to class it a Ryzen Shuriken, he's definitely not going to come out of that without a scratch. Like, either he'll win, but he took some damage, but, you know, or he won't. Because the Ryzen Shuriken is no fucking joke. But anyways, to backtrack, they always say that shit, but they just show, like, the same scan, and then, you know, but whatever.
Also just say that Itachi didn't cripple Jiraiya like he did Kakashi, despite Kisame implying he could have, simply because, well, Jiraiya was a much greater and more powerful asset to Konoha than Kakashi, implying that Jiraiya is certainly a match for the Hokage title, which, if you accept some statements from earlier, then it would fit quite nicely. Orochimaru is again stated to be evenly matched against Hiruzen, again supporting the entire narrative of Jiraiya being close to Orochimaru in true strength, which is, well, something the second data book credits to Jiraiya's Spartan training, be what allows him to remain a fighter capable of battling Orochimaru despite his vast and ever-expanding arsenal of forbidden jutsu, which would be matched by Jiraiya's sheer physical strength through, well, training. However, regardless of your interpretation on them being on par with one another, Jiraiya at least equals to or above Orochimaru in his Sage mode, as upon entering the lower form, I'm
gonna be real with you, this doesn't boil down to interpretation. There's so much consistency of Jiraiya being in the same level as Orochimaru. It's everywhere. There's so many statements, bro. And then you have feats on top of it. When they had their own handicaps, they're on the same level. When they were very young and at their prime, same level, but Orochimaru won in the end. Like, it's always been established that they're in the same fucking level. Orochimaru just is slightly has the edge and always somehow wins and comes on top because he's just more smarter. He's a genius, or he just does things that remotely puts Jiraiya at a disadvantage in a sense. So, but scaling wise, it's said over and over. There's no interpretation. The higher probability or possibility of things is blatantly just simply as that. So I'm just putting that out there. But this is not an interpretation. Interpretations is when something is in the air and it could either be one or the other. Okay? So
implied that he transcends his Sannin level to become a hermit sage, which is probably just consistent seeing as Jiraiya was able to harden his resolve and totally blitz the human path, who was likely holding back in accordance to Jiraiya's, level and base or whatnot, implying that the sage mode is massively above that, which shouldn't come to a surprise to anyone, as, well, yes, Jiraiya is an incomplete sage, he's still one of the best ever at it, as implied by Fukasaku when envisioning the initial sage form of Jiraiya, not the stronger one we see later, that kind of develops the full face coverage for the sage mode, along with his frog-like features that he dons, likely due to having more sage, mode and whatnot, having more senjutsu build up, whatnot.
Except for Minato, though. Minato that perfect. I'm just saying.
Which would equate to a serious boost in ninjutsu, genjutsu, and taijutsu, as implied by Fukasaku when educating Naruto. So, even in his lower form, Jiraiya is one of the best Sage Mode users ever, and is either equals to or above Orochimaru, where he then goes on to get stronger and fight the paths on solid footing, and yet...
So, I don't know if he just misspoke, but if he means that literally, he's not better than Naruto. And Minato, that's a little bit questionable. You can there's ways where you can advocate for Jiraiya, but I would still have Minato because, again, he has perfect Sage Mode. The reason why Jiraiya has the way he looks or whatever is because he's doing a very large amount. When you have perfect Sage Mode, you have a balance where it's not too small and it's not too large, and just ultimately you're just more capable, But what was that?
To be fair, he's not saying that Jiraiya is the best. He's just saying he's one of the best.
Oh, okay. Like out of okay. If it's like out of using it, okay, that's fine.
Yes, if not aided by hard scoping shared vision, he is stated to be on the road to victory as shown against the Animal Path, who did block his fastest Sage attack previously, but that would just be due to the Preta Path utilizing the Renegon Sensory through the dilation of the pupils, while staring at Jiraiya from a far distance as he took the Animal Paths back. So, while it is made clear that Pain is superior to Sage Jiraiya, it's equally clear that Jiraiya did perform well in that fight despite not being able to fully utilize his full arsenal and ninjutsu that he learned from his time at Mount Miyaboku. Such jutsu are stated in the 10-year anniversary guide to actually make the shinobi from other nations tremble tremendously since the great times of war. This would likely include his various, toad-related jutsu, such as this toad esophagus that he placed both Itachi and Kisame under, that would be implied to force Itachi to utilize his Mangekyo, implying that his basic fire style, which is stated to be the hottest of all fire style in the world, simply couldn't break through it. This statement also probably encapsulates many of these summons as well, like, Mr. Gamakin, who's able to weave the Animal Path summons.
Did I hear that right? Did he say the strongest fire style couldn't break through? I don't know if I heard that right.
at that point in time, specifically without Amaterasu, it was said that Itachi's fire style was the hottest.
Oh, if it was one, okay. But I thought he was already saying Amaterasu can. Like, what?
Through the towers to buy
No, it's
dry
talking about
time,
outside of
Gamabunto is
Oh,
the
okay.
strongest and largest of the toads, and you know, most importantly, Ma and Pa, who are basically the strongest asset as they can be summoned and allow for him to enter Sage mode much more proficiently, enable greater combo attacks through their autonomous.
But I will say this: that is true though. Like objectively speaking, and it makes sense if Itachi could break out of it with normal fire style, he would never resort to using Amaterasu. That makes no fucking sense. Like that's just he would just do a normal fire style and get out, right? So like there is a very strong precedence that he had to actually use the Amaterasu. Now to be fair, there is an argument to still against that in a way where you could technically say that Itachi's plan was to weaken himself as much as possible and get blind or whatever, blah blah. You know, kind of like shape himself in a way for eventually to fight Sasuke. Like there are things and ways to go along that route, but I think it's more along the other way, if I'm being honest. If I had to pick between the two. So
like Ma's tongue and acid that wrapped around the chameleon for Paul to then use his high pressure water style to blast straight through it. And the two also possess the frog song, which is a demonic illusion stated to be the strongest genjutsu, implying it's even stronger than the infamous Tsukiyomi that's only feared to be the strongest. Jiraiya's arsenal also boasts a wide array of really dangerous fire-style ninja.
I disagree with that. It doesn't imply for Infinite Tsukiyomi. I would say in regarding like as for nature energy genjutsus or even sound alone, yeah, right, in that category. But this is kind of funny. Me and Ken were talking about some things on the side before, but Infinite Tsukiyomi, like, they operate differently, you know, because Infinite was said to be the strongest, that's said to be the strongest, Shishui is said to be the strongest, but they're the strongest in certain aspects. Shishui is blatant potency when it comes to just getting hit, okay, because it can affect Edo Tensei while Infinite Tsukiyomi couldn't. Infinite Tsukiyomi is more the strongest of like affecting on a planetary fucking scale, you name it, and instantly, okay? While the Frog Song is sound, nature energy, and just really powerful, right? But it also takes time to build up, and it takes time to affect your opponent. It's not even immediate, you know? So again, like, there's blatant differences. So I don't agree with the implying that it's stronger than Infinite Tsukiyomi, but
one of the things the Frog Song has advantage over the other, at least not the Infinite Tsukiyomi, but at least over Koto and Tsukiyomi, the fact that realistically the caster of it could be hidden when they do it because you don't have to make eye contact like you do with the other two.
Yep, and that's
stronger in the sense that it's more it has more utility.
That's a big fucking deal. That's a really big. That's very scary. So like, if you're out and ready fighting about, then you're kind of gonna be in a really bad spot to do it. Like, you better hope to God you have similar scaling, otherwise you're fucked. But if you're like planning with a team, or if you're hiding, or if you even got away, like, bro, you're gonna land it because they can't find you and you're gonna hear it and you're fucked. So it's like it's a definitive win con, basically, is what I'm getting at. What's it called? As long as you have similar scaling or you're working with a team or got away, you know. So yeah, it's fucking crazy, dude. So like, but you know what's funny though? Even the flute chick Tayuya, her shit was fucking. That was Sage Macabre. I'm tripping, you know, like his shit, not her. But either way, his shit was fucking crazy too. So, and that was like immediate. Like, so if anything, I'd say like Sage Macabre had the strongest sound genjutsu technically, out of convenience and just, you know, and all that. But you know, either way, I
don't think you can't move when the demonic when the Toad Song hits you. You can technically move and all that when the demonic chain flute hits you.
Wait, you said you can move during the flute song?
Barely. You can kind of move. It's really hard to do, but you still technically can, and you can still cast certain jutsu. While when the frog song hits you, you're completely out of body.
Yeah. If you're talking about Tayuya, yes, but I'm talking about Kabuto though. Because Itachi and Sasuke couldn't do shit.
They move slightly.
Oh, I don't remember that, but either way,
it's very rare. It doesn't matter.
Oh, gotcha.
I'm basically just saying one you're conscious, the other you're not.
I do wonder though, if you would be able to use a jutsu to do similar like what Shikamaru did, breaking his finger with the shadow possession. Because I know Kabuto is obviously more powerful, right? More potent compared to her, but I don't know if like the same weakness would apply. I don't know, but
it does. They break out of it in a similar way, but instead of doing pain, they just cast Genjutsu on each other.
Yeah, they do it with their MS shit. Yeah, either way, over. Yeah, I'll rephrase it. I don't know. Like, so basically, like, if it's coming like as for convenience for like right away to get hit, then obviously the flute. But overall, of convenience, then yeah, it would still be the frog song. But
Genjutsu, like his flame bombs, which can also be coupled with
because the frog song, if you get hit and once you're put, you're fucked. Like you don't get out. Like so.
To cover absurd amounts of ground.
If motherfuckers with a Renegon can't get out, I don't know what to say. Okay.
This would be a summit strategy potentially for him to literally just cover all the ground to the entire room in oil, then ignite it, and then just kind of slip through the walls in Sage mode like he did in the pain fight.
That's a big deal, by the way. A very big deal what he just showed there, because people actually like don't realize how powerful that is. Datara had to commit suicide to inflict the same amount of damage, but not even kill it right away. But like, again, just to like relatively do that. This motherfucker could just do it on the fly and kill it instantly. The snake had to literally molt its skin and substitute and get out of the attack. That's very impressive, by the way.
Which is something interesting and not many people really know Jiraiya can do, as he could also use this to capitalize on many other powerful jutsu. He could potentially learn that Mount Miyaboku being like maybe his flaming Rasengan, which never did appear in the manga, but it was a very promising concept for the Naruto Storm games, and more importantly the manga's 10-year anniversary.
Yeah, that wasn't canon though. The game it was shown, there's nothing at all to support that it was canon. The only thing you could argue is like, oh, it's Naruto, blah blah, and try to go like that route of why it could be whatever. But the problem with the games, like all the other games, because there's two that are blatantly stated or whatever, but all the other games, they either have blatant contradictions compared to the manga and anime, or it's just extra things, and unfortunately we just don't know because there's nothing to confirm whether or not if it's can be canon. So that's all I'm putting out there. But what's interesting though is what he's showing right now. This was from like a fan book, I think. I don't know a lot about the fan books. I don't know if they're all canon or not. I'm not gonna sit here and act like they are or not because I didn't look into that. But what is cool is he does have a red Rasengan, looks like a fire one, which again was shown in one of the games. So it is interesting. But
anniversary guide, which does display it in both his file and Orochimaru's file. However, I want to reiterate that is not Jiraiya's vast and powerful collection of Sage Jutsu, fire style, and summons that make him so deadly, but his resilient, Spartan-like physical prowess on the level of the Hokage, and likely above Orochimaru by this point, as it will be his Sage mode for the form we use in the summon. However, even in base, like Orochimaru, he has many tactics of circumventing life-threatening attacks, like how Orochimaru reattached his organs after being sliced in half by the Four Tails Naruto. However, Jiraiya showed his stupid physical resilience in this fight with the Four Tails as well, where he did just as good as Orochimaru. And I hear you, crowd sounds like I'm an 80 TV show. I know, I hear you, but what I mean is, when revisiting the Four Tails fight, we get two primary images in the manga, being one from Naruto and one from Jiraiya, both of which show Jiraiya with a massive injury on his chest laying against some debris. However, the backgrounds to both panels are different, implying that he didn't just get up from this injury and fight Four Tails Naruto once, but twice. So this is a pretty cool idea.
I disagree with that. That could be during the same encounter, but he's in a different area. I don't agree with that at all. Doesn't mean necessarily he fought Four Tails twice, but
no. He's saying that within the same fight he had gotten up.
Oh, well, no. Before he said it happened twice.
No. He's saying like he got up and fought him twice within that same fight.
Oh, okay. I guess I heard it wrong then.
That I've never really heard brought up, where he still gets up, and manages to seal him away and win the battle, whereas Orochimaru would have lost in that fight if it went on any longer, seeing as his body was about to literally give out. And the common criticism to my claim would be how, well, Orochimaru was faced with greater threats such as Bijou bombs, and I would argue, well, that's fine, as Jiraiya could have faced one as well, seeing as in this flashback panel his mouth is smoking, and that only happened when he ate the Bijou bomb and blasted it back out. And well, regardless, Jiraiya was able to still hold back to some degree and retighten the seal whilst in base, where Orochimaru simply lost due to his form as well, which could allude more to their relativity base to base, where Orochimaru's superior ninjutsu is a match for Jiraiya's sheer physical strength.
Yeah, another thing I'll put out there, I don't think he's going to show it, but in the anime, it does show more feats for Jiraiya fighting against Four Tails Naruto, so there's that as well. But either way, people are always dumb with that shit, that they both perform very similarly. That's all I'm going to say. So, what's it called? But yeah.
And resilience. And even in the pain fight, after lowering his senjutsu, Jiraiya's arm gets ripped off, where he's still more than capable of pulling one of the paths into his toe dimension, whilst all 6 were jumping him at the same time, and the anime extends this to Jiraiya's favor, showing him parrying them all off briefly. However, I digress. Just some pretty impressive higher ends for Jiraiya, which could also be a strategy employed here, where if forced with a difficult opponent, or multiple, he could simply pull one or the greatest threat into a separate dimension to then fight him like he did with the pains. And while we've already established that Jiraiya is above the individual paths, it should still be noted that he was capable of pulling this strategy off in a weaker stage mode with his arm missing against these 6 paths who, as a group, you know, collectively and whatnot, are probably just above the 5 Kage. But I suppose we can now kind of lean back into that, with our first rounds being against the Raikage and his guards, Darui and C. Entering the first room, we are met with probably one of the most contentious Kages, being the Raikage A and his guards C and Darui, who are implied to be near the higher tier of Jonin and Kumo, since we know that Darui possesses the Mark of the Third, indicating his ability to utilize Black Lightning, which is probably a notorious style, seen as Kinkaku and Ginkaku, the 2 worst criminals in Kumo history, believed that they were going to get a good fight simply based on him having it, where Darui would do exactly that, beating them up and taking advantage of his powerful jutsu and physicality. Kinkaku was actually a threat implied by the Raikage to be a threat he needed to deal with himself based upon their reputation, but Darui dealt with him rather easily, which could also just highlight the true relativity between A and Darui. And we do know that Darui is capable of combo attacking with the version 1 Raikage, at least prior to him getting more serious due to the anger as implied by the weekly release statement. He was also able to battle pretty defensively against Suigetsu, who is formidable in some sense, and though he's below the other, you know, formidable Kumo shinobi like Killer B, the 8-Tails Jinchuriki, it's still a testament to Darui being a right-hand man to the Raikage per se, being able to kind of help the Raikage and assist him in combat.
It's gonna put this out there in very simple terms. Darui's basically like Kakashi, but the Lightning Village. That's all he really is. He's just a very high level Jonin, or bare minimum low Kage. So, while Raikage is high Kage. But
fall to this, though, would be how Jiraiya simply transcends this due to him being stronger than Kakashi whilst in base. Almost every median implies that Konoha is the strongest nation, which would just mean that, you know, the highest Jonin of Konoha, whose reputation stretched to both the Raikage and Darui, would probably transcend one of these stronger Jonin and Kumo, and whatnot. However, I wouldn't even say that Jiraiya himself is necessary for this run to the battle, seeing as he had, in his highest Sage Mode form, he does have Ma and Pa, who Jiraiya considers himself a novice in comparison to, and particularly Pa, is also just capable of sparring with Sage Mode Naruto, who's stated to be even more powerful than his fallen sensei Jiraiya on the back of Volume 45. And while they obviously wouldn't be able to beat Sage Naruto up in a fight or anything like that, they are still, formidable enough to kind of keep up with him in some sense. And this should also just put into perspective why Pain was so shocked at the haste of their combo attacks, and the same would probably just apply here. Ma and Pa would likely use combinations to beat them up while Jiraiya battles the Raikage, and the reason I'm sort of writing C off as a non-factor in this case would be, well, he almost is, in the sense that, well, he's not really a combative type shinobi and is in the sensor unit for the war, which Darui supplements back in the summit with him ordering C to hunt for Sasuke's companions, as well, he isn't really needed on the battle side of things. His style of battle also kind of reflects this as well, as it's also just all relying on Genjutsu and Sensory, which Ma and Pa are both masters of on a much higher level than C, whose Flash Pillar is used by a common technique, whereas, Ma and Pa Pa, they have like the strongest genjutsu, you know, dominant since the Sage of Six Paths era, you know, so you guys can see where I'm going. A strategy you could also pull off quite earlier would be one of the two I mentioned earlier. The first of the which would be how he could just mud swamp the entire room, as he's able to engulf Orochimaru's giant snake's whole, whilst implying it's not even near the full size. This would allow for him to have a massive terrain advantage, where he can not only then summon more toads easier through the, you know, to aid in more time allowed to him, that would also just halt Ciandarui to give Ma and Pa an easier time. But the other strategy would also just be like if the Raikage, who starts in version 1, in light of Sage Jiraiya's powers, ups his cloak to V2, where Jiraiya would then obviously begin to have trouble, potentially forcing the incentive to pull him into the Toad dimension that he fought the Paths of Pain in. And he's also just able to utilize Ma and Pa in this strategy, as it's also just, you know, they're kind of with him. Either strategy is fine, as they basically lead to basically just like an increasing Raikage versus Sage Jiraiya with Ma and Pa at the same time, which version 2 Raikage by this point, prior to getting stronger in the war, is still a beast, being able to beat up MS Sasuke and totally outspeed him in his brutal taijutsu and pro wrestling moves. A point I brought up in the Orochimaru video was how in the second fan book, Kishimoto spends a considerable amount of time explaining his thoughts and process in narrative decisions and character designs, where, in explaining the Raikage, he hinted at the idea that the Raikage was lacking in proficiency, at least in hand-to-hand combat scuffles, but being very dominant in grappling-focused taijutsu, where he would then use his, you know, pro wrestling style to win battles. And I mean, bro does have a golden championship wrestling belt around his waist, so, you know what I'm saying? So, while I would say that Jiraiya would be able to do extremely well against the Raikage, where he could do, you know, keep his distance through like the usual style of long-range ninjutsu, however, in this case, the Raikage is able to dodge Sasuke's Amaterasu that's implied to be the peak of the peak, so it's not like Jiraiya's flame bombs are just going to be blasting him in the face, which would also just force Jiraiya into a similar situation that he had against Pain, where he had to rely...
Okay, so he thinks Sage Mode Jiraiya can fuck with V2A. Okay, that's interesting.
On his, you know, extreme power and amped up Sage Mode to deal blows with Rasengans, among other things. And while I think he could eventually catch the Raikage due to his Sage Mode sensory being, you know, in a higher state and his speed being of A's caliber, it's not like he would just be able to, like, you know, capitalize on his fastest Sage Jutsu being the Kabari Senbon, as they probably wouldn't even be able to pierce the cloak like with the Kusanagi blade. Now, I could still see how some might be skeptical of my claim that Jiraiya being able to eventually catch A, but we are talking about a character whose skills above Old Man Hiruzen, likely by a marginal degree, who is simply above the 5 Kage, standing at the peak of the shinobi world, which will place him above A, and more importantly, he was also just able to catch Pain, potentially...
So his scaling is the statements with Hiruzen. So where the statement with Hiruzen being stronger than the other, or like of all the Kages and whatnot, like during part 1. So therefore, because that statement which correlates to, obviously, Jiraiya, then he would have to be above Raikage. So... Now, my only problem with that, though, is I feel like there's a lot of contradictions, because when we see V2A's full extent of power and where it actually falls along, he's blatantly along the lines where it's similar to Casey of Naruto. And even though Casey of Naruto did surpass him and became on the realm of like Minato's level of power, either way, what's it called? V2 Raikage was also a person that was remotely competing against Minato, but Minato also outsped him too. And there's data books.
There's also a 3-year difference between them.
Yeah, exactly. That too, but what's it called? And then if you have the data books and stuff where it's talking about, you know, like how he's not inferior to the Yellow Flash, meaning he's really fucking fast and he can compete, but it's really just Minato's flying Raijin that's being the saving grace and shit. So overall, like, A's pretty fucking fast, dude. Like, he's no joke. So I don't know if I can necessarily agree with that. Like, you would have to basically argue that Jiraiya or Hiruzen or even Orochimaru or Minato or KCM level and fucking speed type shit. I don't know about that. What's it called?
To play devil's advocate for him,
no.
You could argue that A has speed, but Hiruzen and them have every other stat. Because it is stated that Tsunade hits a lot harder than A.
Yeah, no, for sure. What's it called? That's what she's known for, is for strength strikes and shit. So that's like my only problem. And then there's like tons of statements. Like, you have the statements with A where he literally says nobody is faster than him. Nobody could dodge his fastest punch except for Minato. And that's him. That would mean he also includes all the fucking Sonic. You know, Tsunade, Jiraiya, everybody. You know what I mean? Like, so like that's you have that into consideration. Raikage is just not going to say shit to say shit. Like, what I think what occurred is there's part 1 statements, you know, what's it called, in the data books. But then once Shippuden came into play and we were revealed a lot more information in the realm of scaling of things, there's just a lot of things that just got blatantly proven incorrect, you know, and that's just kind of where you're at. You know, and it is what it is, you know, like, so, I don't know. It's going to be really, really hard and complicated to prove that Sage 1 Jiraiya is in the same realm of speed as KCM Naruto, Raikage, and Minato. Or better yet, even talking on people in the same level of speed as Itachi and Obito. Like, to me, that's going to be very, very hard to prove. We saw how he did against Pain, blatantly, even though there was context, whatever, but when Pain eventually got fully serious, he couldn't do shit. We've seen Itachi to Orochimaru. We've known how Minato is comparison to the Sonic as well. The list goes on. Then you have V2A, which is within that ballpark as well. Like, I think it's very, very self-explanatory what we're working with, but anyways.
Just a man in the Akatsuki who was considered to be invincible to those who could oppose him. Even Obito was surprised at the, and kind of mocked Pain at the extent of how far he was pushed by Jiraiya, who must have lived up to his reputation, which is obviously quite ridiculous, even if you want to be a conservative and say that the second fan book comparing the Hokage and Sannin is simply reputation. It wouldn't matter, as Jiraiya scales to this, at least in Sage mode. So, things like a surprise Rasengan, flaming Rasengan, or even his stronger attacks like the big ball Rasengan should just catch A lacking at some point, or at least press him to the point of Gaara intervening. This could also just come down to your interpretation of the lightning cloak. One thing I noticed that I haven't really heard brought up would be how when Sasuke pierces the V1A, the cloak spazzes out in all directions and Sasuke's Chidori gets weirdly enlarged, being larger than his body entirely. This could imply that the Chidori, being lightning, kind of just went through it because exactly that. However, we do know that the cloak responds primarily to force, such as when he Liger bombs Sasuke, so the sheer force, the Rasengan, and its violently rotating nature, I probably wouldn't doubt if it simply just overpowers A and the lightning cloak entirely. If you're still unconvinced or uncomfortable at the idea of Jiraiya beating him for whatever reason, then he definitely beats him with Frog Song, though he could only use that one time to the summit as Ma and Pa's vocal cords get seriously taxed after utilizing.
I will say this though, if A gets hit by a massive Sage Out Rasengan, I do think it would either severely hurt him or maybe even kill him. Because we know Rasengan is superior to Chidori. And if a Chidori can get through, and mind you, it's lightning to lightning, we know, you know what I mean? Like, and we already know, like, Rasengan's stronger due to statements, whatever. You know, you have that as well. Either bare minimum, he gets hurt severely, or he would potentially even be killed. But, again, I just think A is way more faster. Jiraiya's not landing any hits. Like, unless Jiraiya can somehow, some way get away and do the Frog Song, that is the only fucking way he's pulling a W. But it's again, like, if A's in V2, he's just, I just don't see it. Like, the guy was literally stated to have Biju's level of fucking chakra, bro. Like, the guy is a monster. He's very powerful and he's really fucking fast. Like, so, like, that was his whole shit, was just being the fastest ninja and nobody could deal with his punch except for fucking Minato. So
in a single time. So if you think he needs it here, then he could use it. Otherwise, he'll just use it later, where he couldn't if he still uses it here. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I believe that since I laid out, it's more accurately to say that he passes without it. So I'm just going to move forward with that idea in mind. But again, to remind you guys, he doesn't need to blast A's head off or kill him. Just corner him to a point where Gaara would intervene with his sand, changing the battle over to Sage Jiraiya versus Gaara, Kankuro, and Temari. Also, bro, Kankuro and Temari, we can't act like they're actually going to do anything better than Darby or C. And while I do think they might do a little better than C, it's still, well, it's like nothing, because, you know, all they have is like the ambiguity of their power, right? Because in the summit, all they do is attack similarly to Laser Circus. Temari stated in the last guidebook in reference to her time in the war during the combo attack against the base Raikage to possess the strongest wind style in all of Tsunegakure. And while this could imply it's above Gaara's sand because it's never really specified what element his sand actually is, but this is not only a bit too edgy for me to say, as this is War Arc Temari, not Kage Summit Temari, and all Kankuro has would be in the second fan book. It states that he's the best puppet user, but I mean, what other puppet users are there to compare him to? Sasori's dead, Chio's dead.
Why is everyone spiraling over YouTube banning ad blockers? Like, chill, guys. Just use Pi. It's a free Chrome extension that's actually made by one of
What's
You
that?
get the point. Jiraiya's
He did not have to take that shot against sorcery.
Yeah, I'll be honest. Like, yeah, talking about Kakuzu and not Kakuzu, Kankuro and fucking Tamari, it's just not relevant at all. Like, again, we know they're scaling. They're a non-factor in this shit. He just, and they're not the 5 Kage, bro. But to be fair, it is the summit. To be fair, so but what's it called? But yeah, they're absolutely they're not relevant. So.
basically one-shotting them, likely in a combo attack that used against Pain in conjunction with Ma and Pa, where he would probably just like overpower them or what they could even try to use. And it's also just incredibly viable as it could deal with all of them at once. He could also just, you know, summon Mr. Gamaken to then relocate him around like he did in the Rain Towers, which would also just allow for him to collapse the room like Sasuke did. If anything, he could just use like Mr. Gamaken and fire his flame bombs off and kind of seep through the ceiling and summon Gamaken back to his new location, and then kind of move towards the actual summit room. And while I may seem like I'm just jumping to conclusions, to what Gaara could actually do is kind of unknown. All we really have for this Gaara, you know, prior to the war arc is, well, he can intercept a V2 Raikage's leg drop, which is just likely much slower on the basis that Sasuke could react to it much easier than the other attacks, but more importantly, we also just don't know where the sand came from. Therefore, we can't quantify its speed in relation to A's leg drop. Datara also outsped him pretty bad through their basic, you know, basically through their entire battle. So if you want to be generous to him and say he's as fast as A, then just copy and paste that section, except Gaara doesn't have a lightning cloak, so Jiraiya should just slap him in the face with their Rasengan like he would have done to A. Now, just prior to getting into our interesting matches, I want to point out that yes, Jiraiya will face Mifune, who basically doesn't do much and is seemingly slower or relative to a 3-Tomoe Sharingan Sasuke, who's extremely drained of the drawbacks of the MS by this point. So, if anything, it's likely a weaker Sasuke, leaving me to simply conclude that, well, whether it's from either Ma or Pa, they should be able to combat him quickly enough for Jiraiya to still assess the situation of both Mei and Oniki, who are, well, of a greater threat, being both Kage in their own right. And for basically any of the leaders here, you could chop it up to say, well, they are at the peak of the peak, you know, in terms of shinobi, but are simply outmatched against even higher level shinobi like Sage Jiraiya. But in Mifune's case, the weekly release statement isn't even valid, seeing as he's neither a shinobi or a Kage at large, so Jiraiya should just be dismissing him off rip, and that really shouldn't come to a surprise. And while many people would simply assert the same thing for Mei and say that she could, you know, might just be able to simply dismiss her in one attack, probably just don't understand the full capacity of Mei. And while, yes, she is weaker comparatively to the other Kage, her lava style is still able to blast Sasuke through the wall and into a smaller corridor in a strategy where she did that to seal the meeting room off with her lava, to then up the pH level of the corridor to then burn Sasuke and his Susanoo, which is a feat only ever replicated again by Kaguya, attesting to Mei's jutsu prowess, and, well, how effective these strategies actually can be. The corrosive acid mist is actually able to be utilized just out of her mouth, as she does melt Zetsu's point blank, and while they do try to steal her chakra here, they also did the same to Mifune and his guards, and the Zetsu were kind of just restraining them. Yet here's Mei just melting their faces off. Mei's problem most directs from her actual physical scaling, as while I would concede she could win in the ninjutsu clashes and perform valid strategies to catch Jiraiya lacking, she simply doesn't have the physical backing through things like speed for me to actually give her the win. Her only real showings are on Sasuke when he's so fatigued that he's...
Yeah, Mei, I'm gonna be real with you, she just gets speed blitzed right off the fucking whip against Jiraiya. She gets absolutely fucking dookied on. Her jutsus are great, but like he said, she has no fucking physical scaling at all in the moment. You can't even use anything with Madara because Madara is severely holding back and just playing with them all. So
stumbling around and dropping to his knee.
Yeah, like all she does is like move around, dodge some like Susanoo attacks or whatever, and does like jutsus and shit. That's about it, you know. So
he's sweating, talking about his pain, and even Kari notes how Sasuke's chakra is weakening, which is a verbatim sign of his physical power as well, since, well, Tobirama explains the Sharingan and equates the darker and colder the chakra to a greater power, and less of such would be a weaker power. Just prior to trying to up his Susanoo in the MS, he was able to then dodge Mei's lava style and only his 3-Tomoe from behind the back, therefore Mei's physical speed being able to, you know, put up with these high level jutsu or just aren't really that sufficient, or at least sufficient enough, coupled with the idea that how Jiraiya, at least in Sage Mode, is mainly a taijutsu based fighter, seeing as the only real times he chose to utilize his ninjutsu was to divert the Paz's attention and, more importantly, their vision. So I definitely could foresee a very similar strategy here for Jiraiya, to simply use his flame bombs to then distract or cover her vision, and use his superior speed simply seeping through another angle of the wall, or even just
not only that though, bro. Imagine if Jiraiya summon the fucking frog and does like the fire style while he's in Sage Mode. We saw what it did to the fucking snake when he was in base. Imagine Sage Mode on top of it, dude. That'd be fucking ridiculous. Like, that's like way beyond what Datara could do with his strongest explosion.
To a toad, to then pop back out and slam her in the back with, back of the head with like a big ball or Sengon, presuming he would even need such an attack. When I think for her, he actually could just use something like the Art of the Raging Lion's Mane that he used on the Animal Path in base, or the Toad Oil Bombs, and then maybe like a Fire Style Jutsu to combo that to put her down. And all this is much more likely when you consider that Jiraiya not only has a Sage Mode stacked on top of those abilities, but an even greater Sage Mode through more Nature Energy, which is stated to boost your ninjutsu. So they're going to be much faster, much stronger by quite the degree. So some of you might actually be wondering about Chojuro, and the reason why I haven't really brought him up is, well, he's going to be much weaker than base Jiraiya, who's, above Kakashi, and the only point in the series where they missed.
Yeah, that bitch is non-relevant.
You could guess be Tremble, the man who fought who has a reputation so far and wide of possessing jutsu that made other shinobi tremble, the man who fought Hanzo in the Second War, who is probably the most dominant figure to ever live. The reason I bring this up is, well, Chojuro's powers implied more so in the data books to be correlating, to like his self-confidence, and well, his confidence wasn't at its best against Sasuke because Sasuke once beat Zabuza. So I could assume how you could kind of realize how he's much more scared to fight somebody like Jiraiya, meaning he'd also just perform much worse. And what's he actually going to try to do? Like hit him with the hammer, and wish Jiraiya could just cover himself in his hair to protect himself, and then follow up with something like Kabari Senbon, which is stated to be his fastest and widest range attack in Sage Mode. And since both Mei and Chojuro likely will be,
it wouldn't even get that far, bro. Jiraiya would move out of the way and just fucking punch him in the face and send him flying. Like, shit. But better yet, he might even be able to fucking grab the attack with his hands or some shit. I don't know, Sage Mode has some good durability.
He just rips his weapon right out of his hand and kills him with it.
Literally, or better yet, just do a basic ass Rising Dawn and bam, dead. Like, yeah. I'll say this, spoiler alert, everybody gets smacked the fuck up. The only guy that I think would defeat Jiraiya is A. So basically, like, if I was even doing this video, like, Jiraiya wouldn't get far at all because he'd just lose to fucking A. Especially if the fight is even somehow going long enough. And if others intervene while he has to deal with A as well, there's no fucking shot Jiraiya's coming out of that alive, bro. Like, so, that's me personally, but regardless, let's say we remove A, everyone else is getting fucking clapped. I don't want to hear it, bro. Fucking
singled out anything Jiraiya usually.
What are you saying, Ken?
I was just agreeing with you.
Oh, okay. What's it called?
Outside of A, no one else really beats him.
Like, and then like Inoki, the reason why he's another, because I know people, but what about Inoki? He can be fast, whatever. Bitch, that motherfucker is equal to Datara on flying. Datara is nothing on Jiraiya. Sage Mode Jiraiya? Come on.
Tries to utilize on Mei.
What happened, bro?
He's just Datara with that page.
Basically, literally, like he literally flies at the same speed as Datara. Now, to be fair, it was Edo Datara, but correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think his clay would be affected. At least I don't think it would. I don't know. Maybe that has an Edo nerf now, but either way, that's all we really have.
That just makes it worse for A.
Yeah, exactly.
A, I'm Inoki.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Yeah. I didn't even think of that. You're right. Yeah, it's even fucking worse. Anyways.
Could just also crossfire and kill Chojuro, seeing as how large the sheer difference is in power between them. The reason I say he'd single the two out is because when faced with multiple formidable opponents, i.e. Pain, he also just kind of ran through the corridors to single the paths out individually to then use the flame bomb strategies from earlier, which were successful on even the paths of Pain, and this might be detrimental, seeing as Mei also tried to seal Sasuke into the hallway to make it a 1v1, this being her first strategy, and one Jiraiya is known to utilize in a situation like this, so they will likely just be in the hall hallway corridors, which gives Jiraiya not only the advantages of the flame bombs and everything else, but he also could just use, you know, more viable things in accounting for his much faster and stronger taijutsu to then just kick her in the eyes like he did on the animal pass, sending her flying, for him to then close the distance where he could follow up with the Sage Art Bath of Bathing Oil Jutsu that he uses in tandem with Ma and Pa, and this would have been quite critical for even the human path, seen as it was literally steaming and barely standing up after, and wouldn't have been able to do such if it weren't for the Preta Path's intervention to then absorb the jutsu, which is an ability neither Mei nor Chodro possessed anything similar to, meaning that using either the strategy or many of the numerous strategies I mentioned earlier,
I'm just imagining him summoning the giant frog outside the summit and then doing the oil fire combo on the building. That's if they know about it.
Jiraiya certainly comes out on top of the battle to then battle Oniki and his aide Akatsuchi, who does, well, nothing. Like Jiraiya might just like turn him into a toad or whatever. Before entering though, I actually want to preface what I think Jiraiya is going to do, and that's Frog Song. Frog Song is an
I forgot about that.
auditory genjutsu used by both Ma and Pa in conjunction to create the most powerful genjutsu. The downside would be its charge time, and the reason why this wouldn't really matter is after Jiraiya enters the corridors to single the pads out, he discusses his like strategies quite openly and notes several factors like their vision and their separate abilities. Yet states
I forgot he could just turn. Bring it back, it's not 30.
Oh, wow. Bro, my mic was muted. I have no idea how long my mic was muted for, but hey, at least your audio was coming through, Mr. Ken.
I could hear you the whole time on my end.
What's it called? Through the stream?
Yeah.
Oh, so I guess it was just muted. Thank God then. But what's it called? But no, what I was saying before is
Well, I guess not through the stream, but through Discord I could hear you. I don't know if it does.
Oh, yeah, no, those are different mics. Yeah, that's why, because OBS is different. But either way, regardless how long, I hope I wasn't muted for too long, guys. My bad. But either way, I'll just speak for this moment. What I was saying is it's ridiculous how many ways Jiraiya can one-shot people. Like, he has an insane amount of hacks, and it doesn't even take a toll on him. He just casually does it. He can turn into a frog, a dark swamp, you fucking name it. Summoning combos with ninjutsu, like everything, bro.
He's definitely confident in taking them one-on-one, where then Paul just pops the suggestion of Frog Song on the basis that Pain doesn't have any knowledge of it. Neither will RAIKAGE, and though, yes, he will...
Like, I'll say this. I think Jiraiya is a hard fucking counter to Orochimaru and Tsunade, especially when he's in Sage mode. And that's because of the ninjutsu that he has that's enhanced with nature energy. Because, yeah, they're known for their healing, whatever. But I'm going to be real with you. You think they're healing from, that's what I forgot. Dark Swamp, you can't really fucking heal out of that. Turn into a frog, you can't deal with that with heals. Fucking, the acid thing, if they get dissolved into, you know what I mean, to like fucking dust, like, the fuck? Yeah. I don't know if Tsunade can heal out of that. You know, like Jiraiya has some crazy ass fucking hacks abilities, bro. I'm telling you. Or he could fucking put you in a dimension and shit. Like, that's another thing. Like, what does Tsunade do if she gets put in a dimension? Like, you tell me. But
the caliber of the Kage and his lack of using it thus far, he could simply charge it up against Mei and Chodoro, or even slightly before that, where he even has to enter, so then he just has it prepped and ready to use on Oniki. From what he knows, Danzo wasn't ever very formidable and was always below Hiruzen, as he himself conceded, and we also know that he would have lost to Hiruzen in a fight, as he did for the Hokage title, according to the Sakura Hiden novel, meaning that Oniki, from what we know, or what Jiraiya...
Apparently
that was one of the things.
Yeah, apparently there's a novel where, for like the chair or some shit. Yeah.
Is the last opponent he needs to face.
Gotcha.
And Frog Song is the easiest way to do that. Jiraiya should also just be aware of Oniki's arsenal, as he did battle in both the second and third wars, and Oniki was a very
Now, Seiya Jiraiya would definitely shit on Danzo overall, like with stats, whatever. The only thing that Danzo could potentially do that could win him the fight is in combination of Izanagi and Kodo. What's it called? But if he doesn't have Izanagi already activated, he's getting Speed Blitz before he can fucking do anything. Again, that's if we're even yeah, because what a lot of people forget about Danzo is he has to activate his Izanagi. He has to like mess with his fucking gauntlet, get it ready, and then now he can use it. But if he doesn't have that, he just gets Speed Blitz. But let's say we give him his Izanagi, right? And he already has it, and he's good to go. Obviously, with Izanagi and in combo with Kodo, Jiraiya, he's basically cooked. But, to be fair, he has Ma and Paul, and they could take him out of the Genjutsu. That's a problem. Now, if it's like the minor one, they could basically take him out. Now, if it's the one with visual contact that he doesn't fucking Edo Itachi, I don't know about that one. If I'm going to be honest, I don't know if they would be able to get him out of that. But, I don't know, you know. So, because the way I see it is like, if Kabuto lost his control over an Edo Tensei completely, and now Itachi can do whatever he wants because of the Genjutsu, like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. But that one's a little interesting. But again, either way, regardless if you don't think he can get out of it, if Ma and Paul can break that as well, then he's fucked. You know what I mean? Like, the best way for him to kill Jiraiya is with Izanagi, Kodo, while he's immobilized temporarily, then try to kill him. But I'm going to be honest, you think Paul is just going to sit there? Like, Paul's really fucking strong. That man was going blow for blow with Sagemo Naruto and shit, and you name it. Like, he's no joke, bro. So, like, I don't know. Like, I think... Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, as crazy as it sounds, but Paul might fuck Danzo up. and then Ball just wakes him up, and then now it's back to square one, you know? Like, fucking... So, overall, like, Danzo, he just can't... That's the crazy thing. Like, because of Ma and Paul, they're really Jiraiya saving grace. Unless you think, like, the... Well, actually, it doesn't even fucking matter about... He doesn't have that eye. I keep forgetting. Itachi has the strong Kodo. So, yeah, all Danzo has is the weak version, which doesn't require eye contact, but they could just break him out of it. So, Jiraiya literally is a hard counter to Danzo. Like, he is a hard fucking counter. Which is so, beautiful to say, because I can't stand the amount of times where I had to, like, give Danzo the W in certain matchups because of Kodo and Izanagi combos. Because most people can't deal with it because they're by themselves, you know? So, that's actually fucking hilarious. But anyways. You have anything, Ken, or no? That's about it.
I was going to say, to be fair to this idea of a strong Kodo,
yeah.
Kabuto was convinced that if he had reset the jutsu for the Edo Tensei, he would have gotten control of Itachi again, despite the Kodo.
Gotcha. What's it called? But yeah, so overall, like, you know, that's kind of what you're working with. But again, Danzo doesn't have this strong Kodo. I don't know why I thought he had that shit. I was over here thinking of fucking Shishui. But anyways.
Figure and both and was likely most infamous for his ability to vaporize anything on a molecular level via particle style. And yes, if Jiraiya were to get hit, then yeah, he'd die. But since we just, he has Frog Star, he's gonna use it off rip or off start.
Yeah, I don't think anybody would argue of Jiraiya not dying from particle style. If you do, you're on crack.
I just say he'd also just, pass against Oniki.
What?
Don't you know there's that data book statement where it says he has like bottomless strength, so he just doesn't lose?
Oh yeah, he has that molecular raw durability. Like he's omnipotent. Oh, now thinking about it, he did fight 6-path motherfuckers in base in Boruto during the.
He did.
Yeah, he did.
Maybe you think he needs a little more time to charge him, and when
that shit was crazy. I don't know what crack they were smoking during that fucking time travel arc, bro. Holy shit!
Style to make it then detonate like it does in the
that man said, anime. "Fuck you, alien!
Yes,
I'm a Sonic."
Give Jiraiya the hardest challenge, but in this case, it's a good style matchup, at least in this scenario, meaning that he moves on to Danzo.
Even One Tail Naruto was fucking ridiculous in that shit too. That man was even a threat to that fucking alien dude. Like that shit was. Oh fucking no.
In his aids, Fu and Torne is basically the same for Jiraiya.
To be fair, it's anime only, but
video, and I don't want to just redundantly tell the same story or whatever. So yeah, I'm just gonna sum it up like this. While Fu and Torne are quite powerful, being able to hold off Obito for a brief period of time, throw kunai faster than he could punch, decipher Kamui faster than anyone else ever, and even force him to rip his own.
To be fair, that's something that is very questionable because. Some people think, oh, they were strong enough to hold or press Obito like that, and then there's some people that would say that it's because Obito was just toying with them. I'm gonna be honest. I think it was along with the toying. There's nothing at all remotely to say that these motherfuckers are built like Minato and Obito and etc. Like that makes no fucking sense. They'd be more. Yeah, they'd be more powerful than fucking Danzo then, with that logic. So yeah, it's definitely not. They were strong enough. It was because Obito was just fucking around basically. What's it now? I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't know why Obito would Kamui and touch the bug dude and lose an arm. He didn't have to go that far. Better than that, what's it called? That's what it is. So,
own arm off. These things are all very impressive showings. However, probably won't be able to be transferred.
To be fair, if you want to rat, even though it's only anime only, the bug dude does fight against a KCM shadow clone. But it's a shadow clone, not the legit KCM. So there's that as well. But either way, the bottom line is that they don't scale to people like that.
Seen as unlike Obito, he has a lot of really long distance ninjutsu to utilize on these two that are actually very powerful. He could just utilize Ma and Pa, two stage mode level fighters, to help him, meaning he could hastily move towards
literally
who wasn't really able to put up much of a fight.
I don't know though. I don't know about because we don't get to see anything with Ma though. I don't know, like, that's the only problem. I guess we could assume that she's the same level as Paul, but... What's that?
You just stated that they're relative.
Oh, okay. Well, then there you go. Like, that's fucking 3 goddamn fucking Sage Mode Narutos, bro. Like,
as well. His only real solid showings on Sasuke is when he's much more fatigued and weaker at the beginning of the battle, where he had to die 4 times in the duration it took him to get a single attack off. A single attack that Sasuke tanked no less, and Jiraiya, who's in Sage Mode, a form that's highlighted to amplify durability. I really just don't see why they would be able to cause Jiraiya any issue. Taking him down several times really won't be like an issue. He has typical Rasengan, flaming Rasengans, big ball Rasengans, Art of the Raging,
And the craziest thing is he could kill Danzo so many fucking times, but without actually that much effort. Because if you guys don't remember, like, for one, most of the jutsus he does is not anywhere taxing as using the MS. It's really not that much of a consumption. So it's barely any stamina chakra he's losing. 2, when you're in Sage Mode, you are refilling your stamina and chakra the entire time. It's like getting a senso beam, basically, from fucking Dragon Ball. So not only does he have, like, infinite chakra and stamina because they're constantly channeling nature energy into him, and what's been stated verbatim several times of when you do that, you basically have infinite stamina and chakra because you're just constantly rejuvenating your body and your stats. So, like, this man, he'll never even tire out against Danzo, basically. He could just keep going and going and going. So, like, again, like, he's a really big fucking hard counter for Danzo. Like, It's actually very hilarious, but
made.
But it's only Jiraiya though. But that's because of Ma and Pa. Tsunade though, she could get outlasted, and Orochimaru, he could get outlasted though. But.
Bombs. And now, you know, like with that, he could also just use like his summons, like the strongest Toad, Gamabunta, that then crush Danzo, or you know, even just aid Jiraiya a massive shot of Toad oil for them to do, just to, you know, ignite it in flames, engulfing the entire bridge at large. Even if the Baku comes out, he just has answers through that, like these mud swamp and stuff. So, bro, like, what is there to say? Danzo's not weak, that's for sure, but he's also just nowhere near as strong as Sage Jiraiya. Plus Ma and Pa, but you know, hey. What do I know? This is only my job. So what do you guys think? Do you guys think that Jiraiya is, you know, he does much better? Maybe he does much worse? Did I change your mind?
Alright, it was a good video. I'll say a pass. I'm not going to say trash, but that's because I agree with basically practically everything he went through for the video. I just don't agree with the RAIKAGE stuff. I think it's very tunnel vision is what I'm getting at. Like, if you're just only going to look at part 1 statements and then completely ignore all the statements and Shippuden that contradict that and the feats on top of it, that's where I kind of have a problem with that. Because, again, if it was that simple, then that means the Sanin could even contest against someone like KCM Naruto, Minato, Itachi, you name it. And we know already how all things like go when it comes to that type of scenario. So, like, that's what you're working with. To be fair, you could technically argue Sage Jiraiya is a little bit more different than Orochimaru and Tsunade, you know, and things like that. But either way, like, we just don't have anything really to put Jiraiya in that level of power of like fucking Itachi, Obito, Minato, or KCM1 and shit like that. We just don't. We don't have anything like that. We know he could pressure the passive pains of when Nagato's like, you know, holding back or feeling it out with Jiraiya. You know, and things like that, because that's the thing everyone forgets too. Nagato wasn't going all out against Jiraiya. He was having conversations with the motherfucker, talking with him, whatever, playing with him, having fun. Like, the dude literally used his summoning path to pain, and the moment Jiraiya went to Sage mode, he's like, okay, you're trying to up it up? Alright, cool, I'll summon 2 more paths of pain, and I'm still going to hold back, but that'll be enough for at least to deal with that too while I'm holding back still. Because really, in theory, he could have easily just channeled all his chakra to that path of pain, and just had him fucking beat the dog bricks out of fucking Jiraiya, based upon, like, his chakra, scaling, whatever you name it. But, again, he's just feeling him out, he's doing things, whatever. And then, when it goes from there and Jiraiya, like, outsmarts him with the frog song shit, then he gets serious, finally, has the Ashura path come up, rip his arm off, start fucking him up and shit. And that's when Jiraiya just does the Senate. When Pain starts getting serious, he gets fucked up, you know? So there's that, too. So, like, Jiraiya just doesn't have any scaling to really put him on that level of high Kage. That's basically what I'm getting at. Like, I would say he's probably the strongest mid Kage out of everyone. But I'm not going to sit here and say he's Itachi level or Obito level and all these motherfuckers. I think that's very weird. There's a whole reason why the narrative was constantly praising that level of power, aka Minato, to be just on a whole other fucking ballpark and spectrum. There's a reason for that. And we have the Obito correlation, which obviously would then correlate to Nagato and Pain for those own reasons, etc. You name it. So, but yeah, that's just kind of what you get at, you know, and it is what it is. Like, it is what it is, bro. But, you know, do you have anything more to say, Ken, or what do you have?
No, I have nothing to say. I want to say trash for the memes, but it's a pass.
Oh my god, okay. Alright, man, but... yeah, and other than that, like, I'll say this too, I feel like RAIKAGE just deserves so much more respect, bro. Like, there's a lot of people that just be shitting on that dude, bro. People just be, like, saying, like, he's a soning victim and all this shit or whatever, blah, blah. It's just fucking crazy to me. Like, the RAIKAGE is no joke, bro. That man fucking fought against, like, the Eight Tails and you fucking name it. You know, Minato, the whole 9, like, known to be the fat, like, I don't get it, bro. I don't understand how people would just be fucking... I don't know. But anyways, hope you guys enjoyed. If you guys did, make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Give all the love to Virtue as well. Batman out. Peace. Alrighty, bro. So,
I feel a very angry bird.
Bro, that bird, I don't know what the fuck that bird's problem is. I'm like, fucking, for future references, I'm probably gonna have to, like, move the damn bird. But, like, it's whenever I speak. When I start speaking a lot, the bird loses its fucking mind. But when I'm quiet, it don't say shit. Like,
Are you telling me the bird's racist?
literally, bro. Oh, my bad. You should have said something if you were hearing the bitch, but what's it called?
I didn't want to interrupt the video.
No,